This is kind of the continuing saga of my son's bike. It's a 1974 Honda CB750K. One of the original super bikes. Kind of cool. Back in the day, I never thought these things would be living this long. It's a 40-year-old motorcycle, and he rides it on an almost daily basis. But it needs some loving attention. It's an older bike, and they tend to need a lot more care than the new bikes do. In a previous video, I showed you the bearing replacements and what we had to do to get the bearings out of the hub. Now we're ready to put the wheel back on. Let's go ahead and get that done. Before we get started, at the wheel, when I took the wheel off, I made sure I kept everything in order, on the wheel, so that it all goes back together right, including all the spacers. So we should be pretty good to go there. The brakes are a little kind of ratty looking, so I'm just going to take some worn paper and just clean those up a little bit. Nothing too severe. Just kind of break the glaze off of them. Boy's a little hard on his rear brakes. To make sure there's no cracks, splits, separation from the backing. Okay, once we got that, I'm gonna take a little brake clean. Clean them off. Okay. If you had someone else put the tire on, take a look at the rim. Look for the directional arrow. Make sure that it's spinning in the right direction. Otherwise, the grooves that are cut to get rid of the water aren't going to work, and just be like riding on a slick. Okay. So now we got that there. The chain's kind of tucked out of the way, as is the brake support and the rod. We're just going to place this up in approximate position here. And here's what's going to get a little awkward to try to let you watch while I film it. Maybe I can give you a couple close-up shots, but I got to get all these spacers in place as I raise it up into the wheel. So let me get all that done. Let's take everything apart here, and we're going to go ahead and make everything roughly in place before we jerk it up in there. Just slowly put the chain on. And we have probably the easiest way to do this is to get it up in position. Spacer in place. Sometimes it doesn't hurt to cheat an ultra small axle, and I can use to get some of this in place and away. And I'll just kind of keep that stuff in place while we get the rest of the axle through. And I'll get the nut started. And we'll just get these kind of started. Just hold them in place. Let's see, I think that's a 12. And the reason I have to use a wrench on this is these are old bolts and threads. I mean, They're still working, but they're not as smooth as they used to be. And to be quite frank, I don't feel like chasing them all out. So we got that. Before I go much further, I want to get the brake stay in place. So we'll do that. That's this bolt here. And I keep everything together. I don't want to lose anything, so get that where it fits properly on the back side. It's notched, and the head of the bolt's kind of rectangular in shape rather than a regular bolt hole. So it has a stop there in the back. And this arm is actually shouldered so that when you adjust the chain, there's still some ability for the rod to turn. It's not locked in, it's not fixed. Right? And while we're at it, we're going to put the brake rod back on. There's a barrel, the adjusting nut, and of course the spring. So take that off, slide the barrel through the brake arm, and then put the rod through the barrel, and then the adjusting nut on. And I'm not going to adjust that until I have the chain adjusted. So now we're getting close. Just going to take and get the axle nut snug, not tight. Just I want some friction on it. I don't want it, but I don't want it tight. And because these are roller bearings in this wheel, I can make the axle tight. I mean, yeah, everything has a torque spec, and if you're not real good at knowing what's tight and what's loose and what's snug, you know, use the torque wrench. But if you already know all that, you know, if you're comfortable with having the right feel, torque's not as critical like it is on the. If you saw the video on the Softail we own that uses tapered bearings, that's a little different story. Okay, so now we're ready to adjust the chain, and before we do, not only do we want to check the tension, we want to check the alignment. So let me get a camera shot here so you can see what I'm talking about on the alignment.